What's up, y'all? One Piece, One Life here, and it's finally time. The time people have been waiting for, the time the rats have been in my comments about, is finally here. I'm going to talk to y'all about my story, my One Piece sequel titled One Piece Grand Journey. Now, of course, the very first thing that people are going to ask whenever I talk to anybody about it, whenever somebody asks me questions, the most common question I always get is, why? Why are you doing this? What's in it for you? Why? Well, to start with that, you gotta start with my backstory just as a consumer of media, right? Personally, I love huge worlds with loads of world building that I can just be immersed in and just completely lose myself in. That's my thing. I adore that, right? And to me, One Piece is the epitome of that, not only in the anime manga sphere, but probably in fiction in general. I don't know what it is about me and what it says about me, but I've just always loved reading and writing fiction. Everything about fiction just seems so fantastical, so amazing. And I guess because it's so different from what I perceived as mundane, regular lifestyle, I thought that if I could be in these worlds, imagine what it would be like to be in these worlds. And I guess because I was just naturally creative too. Naruto. Of course, there were other large worlds that interested me, right? Naruto, Harry Potter, Cressida Cowell's Dragon series, How to Train Your Dragon, which the books are so much better than the movie, by the way. And then, of course, everything Rick Riordan. So that's Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo, The Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase. I've also been trying to start the massive list of books in Brandon Sanderson's catalog, right? Like The Wheel of Time, the Stormlight Archive, but I've not been able to because, college. Another reason that I'm writing this is because I just feel like personally I'm a very creative person. I've always been creative, whether it be creating up my own game ideas, board game ideas, video game ideas, books, continuation to other series. I just really liked expanding worlds that were already built, as well as building my own. But one thing overall that I really want to achieve with this project is just paying homage to the actual series. I want to pay homage to the series that I love. The series that has become my favorite, bar none, through expanding its world and at the same time incorporating my own ideas into what I think the future of the One Piece world could look like. I do this by weaving in my own narratives as well as some of the ideas found in other mediums and other manga. One thing I really enjoy, the idea of cross-culture references or even just cross-medium references. So when something is clearly or even subtly pointing out to something else that happened in another series, in another genre, in another trope, I just really like that because I just love seeing the ways that different things can connect. So I try to incorporate some ideas, some concepts, even some micro stories from other anime and other manga that I enjoy into the story that I'm writing. Alright, but enough gushing over all of this sentimental stuff. This is what you really came to see. What the story actually is, the basic overview, and how it's going to progress in the future. So here it is. So this is a synopsis of my story. I just put it out here to kind of explain so that everyone can know exactly what my intentions are, where I want to take it, and how I'm going to write it. So as you can see here, this story is set 5 years after Luffy succeeds his goal and becomes the second Pirate King. It is also set in an alternate universe, which will explain away some of the differences to certain things as opposed to how they are in the original story. Luffy is now the Pirate King and has ushered in a new era, and with it, a new challenge. In order to be the next Pirate King, one must thoroughly surpass and defeat him and his crew. With the Tenryubito gone, the revolutionaries leading new missions, and the Marines reformed, the world has undergone many changes since the Throne War. Malvolio D. Shocker is a boy born an orphan in Fuchsia. Unlike Luffy, an older kid he heard so much about growing up, no one seems to know or take notice of him. However, two fateful encounters, one during his childhood and one during his teenage years, set in motion his dream to surpass Luffy and become the third Pirate King. The young man travels the world, finding friends and enemies alike in order to eventually reach his goal. Now, for those of you who may or may not have seen the site that I posted it on, yes, I am posting it on a fanfiction site called Archive of Our Own, which is a site where just a bunch of people go, authors go, lay out their ideas, their fanfiction, whatever they want, just to get it out there. I've been posting on here for coming up on about a year now, which as of this video, should have about 112 chapters already uploaded. The reason I'm posting it there is because the way that I write is more akin to how you would find the story arc summaries on the One Piece wiki. So if you go to the One Piece wiki and search up Dressrosa arc, the way that they write it there, I write my story similar to that, but with a bit more detail, since we don't have an actual manga yet to compare it to or to summarize from. Now I'm going to explain the first arc, which is the prologue arc. It just spans chapters 1 and 2 of the story, just so that we get a feel for what happens. It's basically explaining what those two fateful encounters that I was talking about are. So first we have chapter 1, titled The Boy Who Lived Alone. And this chapter is where we introduce the character of Malvolio D. Shocker. Now, Shocker is a very interesting character to me because he's my main character, of course. I wanted him to be very shonen MC, so he has a lot of typical standard traits of that genre. But at the same time, I wanted to think about how he could be different from Luffy and from others, just so that it's not a literal Luffy copy just running around in the world. So here we see him as a child, and we see that a lot of his backstory revolves around him not being noticed by others, people not taking note of him, and basically not viewing him as important, and that really gets to him. Those ideas are similar to those found in, Naruto, Black Clover. It's that kind of trope. This goes to the key way that I wanted to distinguish Shocker from Luffy, the way that they relate to their dreams, their goals, and just what they want out of life. Luffy's whole reason for his adventure, his personality, everything like that, has to do with him wanting to be free, to do what he wants, to just be the freest person on the seas, go on adventures, do whatever he wants without being inhibited. For Luffy, his adventure is freedom. For Shocker, on the other hand, I want to make his main character development come through the lens of identity. Because Shocker is so hyperfixated on his identity, who he is in relation to other people, and how other people view him, a lot of how he's going to be portrayed in my story is going to correlate to that. Now, I'm not going to be here just explaining or reading out every chapter. I can't possibly do that. But what I will do is that obviously the links are I'll link it down in the description, and the link is also in my bio for people who want to go and read it. And I'll just talk about some of the important things that I mentioned in each of them here. So, the Dupli Fruits. The Dupli Fruits are my solution to more Devil Fruits, more powers in the story, or even people having similar powers in the story. The way that I had always seen Devil Fruits, because they come from a certain lineage factor, if you take the lineage factor of somebody else, synthesize it, and add it to a new fruit, you can just en masse make whatever power you want. Now, we're not seeing this in an actual fruit form besides Momonosuke's fruit, which was artificial and not perfected, but in this version of events, I personally believe that Vegapunk has already nearly perfected it. And keep in mind, this backstory is 9 years ago from the present day, which is 4 years before Luffy becomes Pirate King. So Vegapunk, of course, comes to the island and explains what the Duplis are. And essentially, a Dupli makes it so that moving forward, when people have the same or similar abilities in my story, it's not a matter of, I thought Devil Fruits could mean that only one person can have one of every type. That'll still be the case, and I'm not saying that I'm going to just have a bunch of fire users, a bunch of ice users, overpower stuff like that, but it'll allow me to create a more cohesive story through the fact that I won't have to be killing off anybody just so that somebody else can have their Devil Fruit ability. So in chapter 1, Vegapunk kind of takes on a mentor role, not necessarily a mentor, but kind of a patron role for Shocker, where he, at the end of it, really believes that Shocker can shake up this world, change the world, and that's why he leaves without any repercussions, even though Shocker ate the fruit. Which fruit does Shocker eat? The Gomu Gomu Dupli. Now, one thing that I've had a lot of pushback against when I tell other people of the concept of my story is how similar I'm making Shocker to Luffy, even to the extent that they have the same Devil Fruit. Now, the way that I get around this is through the way that the Gomu Gomu Dupli that Shocker eats eventually will come to realize, and the part that I explain this is already posted, so I don't count as a spoiler, but it's the actual Gomu Gomu no Mi. What do I mean by that? I'm gonna tell you. Let's use Marco's fruit to illustrate. Mythical Zoan powers allow you to transform into the animal or being that they represent, but on top of that, have a mythical aspect of a paramecia power. For example, Marco's phoenix fruit allows him to turn into the phoenix, the actual bird, but then his mythical aspect allows him to heal. However, there are complete devil fruits with just the mythical aspects as the base function of their fruit. In Marco's case, the base function of his fruit is healing powers with the healing fire. Well, Princess Manchuri's Chiyu Chiyu no Mi can do essentially the same thing, where the base power of its fruit is just for healing. So with that being the case, if Luffy's true devil fruit is the human fruit, mythical model Nika, and its paramecia ability just allows him to stretch like rubber, then surely it just makes sense that there's a whole fruit dedicated to only being able to do rubber stuff, right? The actual Gomu Gomu no Mi. So this is what Shocker eats. And one thing that I really just want to know quickly, the way that Shocker eats it and he knows that it's really sweet. For those who caught it, it's an inversion of how devil fruits usually taste bad. Vegapunk made the duplies taste good for that reason. Just a small thing. But yes, Shocker will have the Gomu Gomu no Mi. He'll use it in a lot of the same ways as Luffy does, but he'll use it in a lot of different ways too, and that'll just come as he continues to grow. Chapter 2 is titled The Pirate King's Crew, and as you could guess, it's all about the Straw Hats. So this is 9 years later after Shocker ate the fruit. By this point, he's grown up, he's matured, he's gotten stronger to the point that he's even claiming to be the village's protector. Obviously, it's a self-claim, but protector nonetheless. Now here we see the Straw Hat Pirates coming back to Fuchsia Village 5 years later after Luffy became the Pirate King. It's the first time Luffy's been back in so long, and this is our first view of Luffy as the Pirate King and his crew as the Pirate King's crew. So some notable changes right off the bat. Firstly, I made it so that in my version, after the Wano Country arc, both Carrot and Yamato joined the crew officially. They've been with the Straw Hats throughout the rest of their adventure up till when Luffy became the Pirate King. Carrot and Yamato are both official crew members. Now their interactions in the bar, everyone throws a huge party for the Straw Hats coming back. Everyone is partying, and this is when Shocker meets them in the bar as he hangs out with them, and he realizes that pirates aren't just evil, marauding pillagers, because there are different kinds of pirates, and it just depends on the kind of person that you are. And remember, Shocker had grown up hearing about Luffy because he's the one that everyone did talk about instead of him, but he had never met Luffy until this point. Even when Luffy had set out for his own journey, Shocker had been training. Then of course, in this second chapter, I really wanted to play up the parallels between Shocker and Luffy, their relationship, and the way that parallels the relationship between Luffy and Shanks in the original series, with the younger one really wanting to join the older one, and the older one being like, relax, you still have a lot of place to grow. Luffy really likes the challenge, so Luffy says, alright, I'll let you join my crew if you can beat me in a fight. Shocker immediately goes to punch him, and Luffy knocks him straight up out of the roof. Shocker goes on to lose 103 different times, and that just goes to show Shocker's dedication, how much he really wants to, but Luffy at the same time showing him that you're not ready for this. And then of course, I think that is a very passing of the torch moment. Luffy is inspiring Shocker the same way that Shanks inspired Luffy, where Luffy is now telling Shocker, you don't have to be a pirate on my crew to become a great pirate. Do it on your own. Come and meet me, surpass me, and you can become the third Pirate King. And of course, Shocker goes for it, because in his mind, what is he thinking? Third Pirate King, that is the best way of getting people to acknowledge me. There's no way that people won't be able to acknowledge me if I'm at a level of status that Luffy has, or even surpassed it. There's also a bit of foreshadowing in the way that I said, the way that Shanks did. Even Nami comments, are you sure you want to give away the hat? It was Shanks' hat, and Luffy said this is what he would have wanted. A bit of foreshadowing there. And of course it ends with Shocker declaring that he's going to become the third Pirate King as he sets out from Fuchsia on his own journey, his grand journey, as it were. Now, as for future plans, the first things first, I really do want to make it a fan manga or a fan comic of some kind, but of course, that costs a lot of time, effort, artists, money. It's not going to be an immediate thing, but it's something that I really do want to plan. I've also thought about it's probably going to be more of a comic than a manga, just because there are certain ways in which mangas differ from comics that I don't have access to manga channels or manga avenues, but a comic may be easier because I'm based in America. Of course, I'm gonna continue posting. I post on Archive of Our Own every Monday and Thursday, so there should be a post probably whenever depending on when you released it, there should be chapter 113 recently posted. And we're quickly reaching the climax of the first half of the story. And so I'm just really excited to get there. I'm glad that we were able to get there in a year. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see where this goes from here. I do have a website in the works that is going to be a website just explaining everything and how it relates to my story. As of right now, it's Google Sites, but I do plan on making an official website a bit later on after I've kind of finalized all the information. But that won't be for a good few years because I haven't even finished writing the actual story yet. So I need to finish that, then finish the Google Sites before I can translate it to a proper website. Another reason that everything's going to take so long is because I'm currently doing all of this alone. To be honest, I am looking for help, or I'm at least open to help. If anyone has any way in which they do think that they would like to contribute to this project, I'm all ears. While I am the creator and the ideas will be mine, I don't want to be the sole entity that can ever touch this. You know what I'm saying? Things like feedback, guidance, even artistic help. All of these would be greatly appreciated and welcome. And then of course, there are going to be more videos explaining this series to come. I can already tell you guys that the next video is going to be an explanation of what I call the blank period and the ending, my ending to how the original series ended. So it'll span from everything from what we've seen in Egghead Island up to this point to the end of the story of the original series, and then the blank period, which is the 5 years between the end of the original series and the start of mine. On Archive of Our Own, that's known as the World Figures arc. It's its own 2-chapter mini arc, but I'm just gonna explain everything here too. So that's it for this video, guys. Please, if you liked anything I had to say, even if you didn't, and you want to be in the comments talking about,
this is the stupidest idea anyone's ever heard,
I'll fight you. I'll be down there to fight you. But I need y'all to please like the video, subscribe to the page to keep up to date with the story, keep up to date with all the news. I do a lot of One Piece content. I want a lot of things coming up the block. And yeah, subscribe. Also, make sure to share around not just my YouTube, definitely share the YouTube, but also the story itself. Just share it around if you find it interesting. If you think that there's potential ideas, just let me know. I'm open to feedback. I like hearing what other people's ideas are on my thoughts. I won't take them personally, unless you attack me personally. But if you do attack me personally, I just won't care. And until next time, y'all, always remember, One Piece, one life.